In the welterweight division, Gilbert Burns gets it done over Neil Magny in round 1 by submission via arm triangle, making somewhat quick work of the veteran, who is the winningest welterweight in UFC history in Magny. The official time, 4:15 of round number 1. It felt like it was sooner than that. I felt like Burns never really got touched. Mark, let me start with you first. What was your take of Gilbert Burns getting back in the win column in impressive fashion?
This was exactly what it should have been. Gilbert Burns didn't fuck around one little bit, and a Gilbert Burns who fights like that, who's willing to leverage his grappling, which, like, easy to forget after kind of the past years of his career, is top shelf. A guy who uses that, a Gilbert Burns uses that, is a filthy Gilbert Burns. And you heard him after the fight. He said, I'm going to sub everybody. So it seems like maybe there's been a bit of a mindset shift after some brawls for Gilbert Burns about using his jiu-jitsu more. And if that's the case, I am really intrigued to see what this next run here could look like, because he looked phenomenal. And that's a heartbreaker for your boy Neil Magny. You could argue biggest fight of his life, big stage in Brazil, in a fight that he asked for, and he more or less got run over. So tough one to take for Neil. Sure, he'll bounce back. We've seen him do it before. But I think he is destined to maybe never quite break through to the elite, it seems. And Gilbert Burns is certainly that. Real, one last thing. I texted this to you guys. I saw some takes of people being like, oh, Gilbert Burns, like his wins are over an older Woodley and an older Maya and an older Wonder Boy. Like Gilbert Burns is not this level, like necessarily blah, 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 blah. Like Gilbert Burns is a fucking stud. And if you don't think that he is in that top 5, like surefire top 5 welterweight, you are drunk.
Agreed. Omar, what was your take of Gilbert Burns getting back in the win column in impressive fashion?
Gilbert Burns' jiu-jitsu is terrifying. Even on screen, it's terrifying. Watching that man get mount, I could feel the air escaping this man's lungs and like not really returning. No Magny got run over, man. That was a lawnmower, that was a wood chipper, that was whatever mauling equipment you want to use, meat grinder. It was crazy. And Neil Magny is the type of guy that, he was kind of one of the OGs of the Gracie combatives in the military and stuff like that. So the man's been doing jiu-jitsu for like a shit long time, and it like didn't matter, and that is terrifying. Gilbert Burns is an absolute problem. He should lean on the jiu-jitsu a lot more. It makes you wonder whether that Chimaev fight would have been different had Gilbert Burns looked to the jiu-jitsu game a little bit more. Granted, trying to take down that behemoth of a man would have probably been a feat in and of itself, but would things have changed had there been that motivation maybe, or that mindset? I would also wonder if the fight with Chimaev and the damage he took from Chimaev, because he got hurt in the in the Kamaru fight.
Yep.
But he took a lot more damage in the Chimaev fight, and I wonder if that damage led to him fighting differently, because he can't keep doing that. I mean, that's regardless of the fact that he lost that fight, that shit just is not healthy, right? Like especially when you can see he doesn't have to do that. So if you have a choice, don't get your ass beat like that, because it just doesn't help. But this Gilbert Burns,
I read somewhere today that apparently his wife asked him to just go out and win by sub and not have crazy exchanges.
I didn't want to assume, but I was not going to be. I figured somebody pulled his ass to the side, like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. Yeah. So I'm glad, because this Gilbert Burns is far more superior than the Whale and Bale that we saw in the Chimaev fight.
Man. All right, what's next for these boys? Let's start with the winner, Gilbert Burns. Mark, give me a name. Who do you want to match him up with next at 170 pounds?
So we've been listening to these rumors for a bit now of the possibility of Colby Covington fighting Khamzat Chimaev. But who fucking knows what Colby's doing? And who knows, frankly, what Chimaev is doing? So, like, if that fight is going to happen, then all right. I think the pivot is Gilbert Burns against Bilal, which is still a great fight. If that other fight is not going to happen, I would rather see, personally, Gilbert Burns against Colby Covington. I think that's a great fight. Personality-wise, build-up-wise, style clash-wise, everything. That's the fight I would sign up for.
Omar?
Yeah. I mean, you know me. I'll watch Colby Covington get punched in the face any day of the week. I think that fight is actually super competitive. Colby Covington's pace, I think, makes all of these fights. No, you know what I would equate it to? If you ever seen guys who like play chess and shit down in New York City, if you've ever seen videos or whatever of those guys, a lot of those guys play, and I was explaining this to Francesca the other day, they play like speed chess, right? So chess on a really limited amount of time.
Right.
Grandmasters who will play a game of chess for goddamn hours, days, weeks, years even. A lot of these guys will almost never lose because they have the time and the I guess the ability to take as long as they want and kind of do it at their pace. You take that same grandmaster that'll beat the shit out of anybody, a computer and whatever else, you pick him downtown in New York City and put him against a guy playing speed chess, and you put the clock on like 2 minutes, I guarantee you that grandmaster is going to be sweating by the end of that fight or match.
Sure.
And that pace changes a lot of shit. Gilbert Burns will run through 90% of this division, but the pace that Colby Covington sets can change a whole hell of a lot.
I like that analogy. Well
Of the guys who are
Chess nerd at play.
Yeah. The guys who are ahead of Burns, obviously he's already lost to Kamaru. He's already lost to Chimaev. I feel like Colby and Bilal are question marks, but I like Burns in both of those matchups. There's only one guy who is behind him in the rankings who I think could beat him. And his name is...
Wait. Don't say it. I want to look. Rachmanov?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, fair. He looks unbelievable so far.
I'll tell you this, if he kills fucking Jeff Neal...
That's
then,
the one. Yeah. If he walks through Jeff Neal like he has everyone else, that's like, okay, he's on the same level as these dudes we're talking about right now.
The real deal.
Like you could beat Jeff Neal. I'm not saying you can't beat Jeff Neal, but if you beat the shit out of Jeff Neal, that's a completely different story.
Yep. Exactly.
Let's talk about, let's throw out a name for Neil Magny. Omar, you have any ideas of who you would want to see Magny fight next? Is he going back to gatekeeper status?
I mean, I don't want to do him like that, but it just, what can you do? What can you do? I mean, he gets to where he wanted to be. He got the shot that he asked for, and, it fell by the wayside. It didn't come to fruition the way that he wanted it to. And the reality is, there's a lot of guys around where he's at, ranking-wise, that are also matched up or deserve a fight, I think, at this point, that are higher than him. You're going to have to be looking at other guys now to... A lot of the up-and-comer guys, I think, to get a shot at Neil Magny, and I think that's just kind of how it goes. I want to see if this man... I don't think he's fought him before, but... Alex Morono, I think, is a guy who could benefit from a fight with Neil Magny. I think Morono still needs... he had his shot against Ponzinibbio. That kind of went to shit. Neil Magny's
short notice, though.
Right. Neil Magny's shot kind of went to shit. But Morono had a nice little run going for a little bit. And he's looked good, man. He's a winner. He's a gamer. Very, very tough guy. Very willing to get in there and really fight in order to win these competitions. So I say put him in there with Alex Morono.
I like that. I'll say quickly, this is not the matchup I'm going with, but if you want to give Magny one more inside the gate, he's fought most of these guys. One he hasn't fought is Vicente Luque, who needs a fight right now. You could go that route.
Yeah, he's in the gate. He's in the gate for sure.
Yeah, he's inside the gate. Personally, I'm putting Neil back at the gate, and I would like him to be waiting for the winner of Randy Brown and Jack Della Maddalena.
Yeah, I consider Randy Brown, and I saw he was already booked, and I was like, meh.
Yeah.
Might not be within the gate, but I think a cool matchup could be against one Kevin Holland against Neil Magny.
Oh, that is a cool matchup.
A bigger name at 170
I
pounds
agree.
who might not be in the upper echelon. Could be a nice money fight for both of them.
I like that. I do like that.
Where do you have Kevin Holland in your rankings, Mark?
Number one in your heart? How about that?
21.
Man.
Yeah.
It's further away than I realized.
Yeah, I mean he's not ranked in UFC either, right?
No, he's not.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how far from 15 he was. At least the top 15, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, 21. I mean, I'm looking at my list. You could argue he should be maybe one or two higher, but yeah, it's tough to really put him higher than that, at least at this point. I mean, he could have just beat Wonderboy if he fought different, and he'd be a lot higher than that. But based on the actual wins and losses, it's a little tough.